Friends, it's Jasmine. I hope that you all are doing well. And if you're new to my channel, welcome. I make witch content. If you're into that sort of thing, follow me, subscribe, hit the bell, whatever. Check out all of my links down below. And if you are a returning subscriber, it's really good to see you here. Thank you for coming back. So recently I took a trip out to St. Louis, and before I left, one of my good Judys watched one of my dogs for me, and that would be Natalie. Now, when I went over to Natalie's, Astra came over, and I was fortunate enough to film a sort of conversation and an interview about American traditional folkloric witchcraft. This video is going to be in 2 parts, but I'm probably just going to use this same introduction for both of them. So if you feel like you're getting deja vu, you might be if you're watching number 2 and you've already seen this intro. Please make sure that you watch 1 and 2 because the conversation definitely builds on itself. So I will be releasing 1, of course, first, and then I will be releasing 2 later. So make sure that you stay tuned. Make sure that you hit the bell so that way you can stay notified every time I post. I know that sometimes YouTube and the algorithm changes things. I have found myself unsubscribed to creators I know that I was subscribed to. So go ahead and just double check that now. And if you haven't subscribed already, subscribe. I was really fortunate and lucky to be able to film this. Natalie and Astra are both phenomenal witches, and I would say that very well versed in American traditional folkloric witchcraft. If you have any questions about this tradition, please leave those questions down below in the comment section, and maybe I or Astra or Natalie or maybe another American traditional witch will respond. I really enjoyed making this. In total, it's about an hour long, which is why I've decided to separate it up into 2 parts. I would also just like to add that if you are interested in American traditional folkloric witchcraft, be sure to check out the Red Thread Academy, which is an online witchy school all about this tradition. I have a link for that down below in the description. I hope that you all will enjoy, and until next time, blessed be, and I will see you in hell.
Have the same thing. No. Loose no.
And yes.
And yes. Because if you are doing American traditional witchcraft, you are doing witchcraft based on your geographical location and with the spirits of the land. It becomes folkloric when you add in the folklore of the area that you live. Mm-hmm. So if you aren't working with any kind of folklore based on the area that you live, based on the land, you're doing American traditional witchcraft. If there are aspects of your practice that involve folklore of the land that you live on, then it becomes folkloric witchcraft or American folkloric witchcraft. So that is what I would say is the clear difference. And you can absolutely become a person who, if you're just doing folklore, if you're just doing traditional witchcraft, you can become a person who does folkloric witchcraft, and vice versa. You can stop doing those things. That's the biggest difference, I think.
Pizza is here. Traditional witchcraft implies that there is a tradition being passed down, usually by initiatory purposes. Folkloric witchcraft implies that you are looking at the folklore of the area, as you said. But the overlap is very, very strong. Mm-hmm. And the differences are so subtle as to be negligible, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Really, it comes down to, are you working with the folklore of the area?
Yeah.
If you aren't, you're doing traditional witchcraft. If you are, you're a folkloric traditional witch.
Be both folkloric and traditional. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. I think that's the best way. I'm a very middle pillar kind of girl. You know, I'm not interested in, oh, we do it this way or we do it that way. I always like to look for the third road. You know this about me. Like, no, there's another way through. We just don't see it yet. It goes back to the poem of Thomas the Rhymer. Excuse me while I go all folkloric. You know, see there the broad road that leads to hell. See there the narrow road beset with thorns that leads to heaven. But if you look very, very closely and you know what you're looking for, and through the middle is the green track. And that is the road that leads to the land of Fae. And that is where you have to go if you're a witch.
Yeah.
So we're always looking for that third road.
The middle way, the liminal space.
Yes.
Yeah. Liminality is very big.
Oh,
very,
absolutely.
very important.
Yeah. I knew of Jasmyne before I ever met Jasmyne. Yeah. Jasmyne is an active high priestess in Indianapolis, and I was an active high priestess in Indianapolis, so I knew about Jasmyne. And I had heard all kinds of interesting gossip about Jasmyne, none of which I took it all with a grain of salt, because I was like, eventually I'm going to meet this person and I'll make my own decisions.
I believed every word.
Did you? We got together with another high priestess in the area and did a group meal at the New Aeon Center for the 3 covens in order to promote community unity and health. And I was very impressed with Jasmyne. I thought she was fun and funny and well-spoken and fucking brilliant. And I knew that I liked her right away. I didn't know what she thought of me. Yeah, that's how I met Jazz.
Make it perfectly clear that Jasmyne knew about me before I knew about her. Initially online, she had a very big social media presence. Become like close friends until a while after I had met with her for the first time. I met with her at a local restaurant, and we talked and got to know each other. I was extremely intimidated by her because Jasmyne has big energy. I was intimidated, but she has remained in my life, and she has been a very big, important part of it. You know, like you said earlier, I too have not the best mental health, and Jasmyne has helped me greatly with some of my mental health. And yeah, there have been a number of rumors that have flown around about Jasmyne in the area that we live in, and I want to say for the record that they're all true. Believe what you've heard. Jasmyne and I co-host a live stream show called Daughters of Cain. We did 2 seasons of it, and we have been contemplating going back to that. It's basically just a show where we talk about witch things, or we just kind of babble at each other about witch stuff on a live session, and people talk to us and stuff. So that has been a very big deal, and she has helped me find my craft again, because of the poor mental health, I've lost my craft to a certain extent. It's been difficult for me to find it again. You know, when the Rona happened, a lot of things happened that weren't the healthiest for a lot of people. Yeah. And I lost a lot of myself in that time. And then on top of that, you know, I am a trans woman, and with that comes a certain degree of agoraphobia for me. And so it becomes very hard for me to leave the house and meet new people and get involved in the community. Jasmyne has very patiently been working with me for the last few years to get me more comfortable with coming out into the community and being a part of that. Still a work in progress, but we're working on it. And yeah, Jasmyne has been a very important person in my life who I love very much. Not sponsored.
And on that note, we can pause it there.
Hello, what's tradition mean to you? Clink.
Rumors about Jasmyne in the community. She's running a cult. I mean, maybe.
Is that, are they rumors that they're all true though?
We heard one today.
Really?
Yeah, because we were talking earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Should we talk about that one?
Sure. The Jasmyne is white. How very dare.
This individual claimed to have met both of her parents and that they were both white. Weird.
That's weird.
That's weird.
That's weird. How do you question someone's transness, first of all? If a person says they're trans, they're trans. And secondly, like, what?
You know, a criminal. That she's a thief, a fraud, a drunk.
Addict.
She's addicted to burglary and fraud and embezzlement. I've heard a lot of rumors about Jasmyne. I've seen a lot of the online discourse. I've come up to bat for Jasmyne on a couple occasions when it comes to the online discourse. The funny thing about a lot of these rumors and the drama that occurs is most of it comes from people who are just looking to make themselves look better and not to be controversial, yet brave. Most of these people are cis white women, though there is one man who I would love to name, but I don't think we can do that here because he'll make another 30 to an hour minute video about her. One man who loves to
rail against Jasmyne.
Talk out of his booty hole about her. And it's sad. It's just sad that people
But entertaining.
But entertaining. It's just sad that people in our community can't leave people alone. Because the reality of the witchcraft community is that it is unnecessarily competitive.
Yes.
And gatekeeping. And sometimes gatekeeping is necessary.
Yes.
You have a great fairy story about when you and your brother were in the woods.
Oh, yes, I do.
Coven is a family, which I know is kind of a big thing to say because a lot of times when people get involved in covens, it's people you don't always know right away. But I think a coven is only as effective as the closeness of its members. You can't have a coven where it's just a social hour.
Right.
You can't have a coven where people aren't really connected to each other. Covenry is about developing and growing within a tradition, within a practice, together as a unity, as a family. Does that mean that you are going to get along with those people all the time? No. Does it mean that there won't be any bumps in the road? No. There will always be those things because we as humans are incredibly fallible and prone to error, and people can be wrong. High priestesses, high priests can be wrong. And being in a coven with people who recognize that fallibility, that imperfection, are always going to work better because everyone in the coven is going to see eye to eye. Is there a hierarchy? Sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Frequently there's a hierarchy, especially if it's an initiatory tradition. Does that
or a teaching tradition.
Or a teaching tradition. Does that hierarchy mean that people who are in a different position than you are better than you? No.
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 Absolutely not.
You're all working together to achieve a common goal within the coven. And so whether you are a brand new baby first degree, or whether you are the HP of the coven, be that high priest, high priestess, or whatever terminology you like to use, keeping in mind that you are all there for the same reason to do the same thing as a unit, as a family, is something that I think is really important for a coven.
What is Covenry? Covenry is a group of practitioners coming together with a common goal in mind on a regular basis in order to practice magic, or witchcraft in specifically. You were talking about the fallibility of high priests and high priestesses, and I wanted to say something about that.
Okay.
Speaking as a former high priestess, something I always tried to impress upon the people that I was teaching was that I was very fallible, that I had feet of clay. I told them, please don't ever put me on a pedestal, because I will fall and break my pretty little neck. If you put me on a pedestal, I'm going to disappoint you.
I remember you telling us that. I remember you I don't remember how many of us were there, but I remember that you looked at us and you said, at some point I will disappoint you.
Oh, yes.
I remember that conversation.
Oh, yes. I tried to make that extremely clear from the very beginning. And I think that teachers have an obligation to make that clear, because it's too easy to fall into cult-like thinking. It's too easy to fall into this idea that somehow you are better than, or more gifted than, or more deserving than other people just because you've been doing it longer. No, of course not. Of course not.
It would be an interesting subject to touch on.
Yeah. I walk a double path. I am both a witch and a Thelemite. Thelema is a current of magic laid down by Aleister Crowley. Its tenets are: do what thou wilt to be the whole of the law, love is the law, love under will. And that doesn't mean doing anything that you want. That means doing your will, discovering your true will, your purpose in life, and single-mindedly pursuing that purpose. Doing it with love. I think a great deal of my true will has to do with witchcraft. Has to do with disseminating witchcraft, learning about witchcraft for myself and to help other people. And I don't see the two as mutually exclusive. A lot of people do. But I practice what I would call Thelemic witchcraft. It's not solar phallic, even though I am a member of a solar phallic cult, the OTO. It's not lunar yonic, even though there is a path in Thelema that is lunar yonic, the Kenneth Grant current.
It's such a great term, lunar yonic.
Lunar yonic.
I like that a lot.
Thank you. I see what I'm practicing as that third road, once again, starry, non-binary.
I'm sorry. Hold on. You'll have to edit this out. The starry butthole.
Love and pleasure. Yes.
If you can't laugh about witchcraft, if you take it too seriously,
no,
this is not the path
you
for
have to be able
you.
to laugh at yourself. If you're not having fun, what's the point? A robed coven. We did not practice skyclad.
Largely that was because there were a lot of people in Crossroads who were not comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
And I was perfectly okay with that. I came from a Gardnerian background, so I was very used to working skyclad, and I also serve as a priestess in the Gnostic Mass, so I'm naked for ritual a lot. on a regular basis. I don't have any problem with getting naked for ritual. However, it's not about me. It was about what the Coven wanted and what the Coven needed. Now, I considered using skyclad work as part of the initiatory process. However, I didn't, and that had to do a lot actually with the fact that we had several trans members in the Coven, and I wanted to respect their boundaries. And they didn't feel comfortable working naked.
We were a very queer Coven.
We were so queer. I loved it. Oh my God.
Yeah.
We got really lucky.
We did.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important too, is that if you're in a Coven situation and your high priest or priestess or both demand that you be skyclad for things, that's not healthy.
Mm-mm.
Being in a situation where you have a priest or priestess who are like, okay, we're doing this ritual, you have the option of doing it skyclad if you want to, but you do not have to. Again, like with most things involving the human body, this comes down to consent.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are in a situation, a Coven or anything else spiritual, where the choice is taken away from you, the consent is removed from the situation, that's not a good environment to be in.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there are some situations that are great to be skyclad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I personally prefer skyclad for personal work, for stuff that I'm doing alone, because your body is deeply personal.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean you can't share it with people, obviously, because you can. But if you don't want to, you don't have to. And, you know, if I'm going to do work in the nude, in flagrante,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do that by myself, generally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
I am fine with certain aspects of skycladness. I'm fine with partial skycladness. But, like, you know, there are situations and times where I don't always feel comfortable with it.
Right.
And it doesn't always necessarily come down to, like, well, no, I guess it does kind of come down to how I'm feeling about my body that day.
Yeah.
Because, you know, society puts a lot on us about what our bodies are supposed to look like. And those of us who are plus size, you know, don't always fall into that genre of what is acceptable. And so we've grown to learn that our bodies are not okay, even though our bodies are perfect the way that they are.
Yes.
But nonetheless, regardless of the perfection or imperfection of the human body, it all comes back to consent. If you are in a situation where you don't want to get naked for magic, don't get naked for magic.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to, and you are in a safe environment with people who make you comfortable and are going to protect you and whatnot, and you want to do it, do it. But only if you want to.
And as a Thelemite, you know, we have the rights of man, Liber Oz. And one of those is man has the right to wear it what he will. That's man as mankind. Crowley had this thing in Liber Oz where he wanted each of the words to be single syllable. So he used man. Who would I be as a Thelemite if I demanded that people dress against their will?
Yeah.
That people act against their will? Even in the Gnostic Mass, where the priestess is naked behind the veil, proclaiming her speech, you have the option to re-robe before the veil is parted, should you choose. Because some days, you just don't feel like being naked in front of a bunch of people.
Mm-hmm.
And that is your right to do.
You want to know something that I am oddly okay with, though?
What's that?
Like, I would want to have, like, some kind of undergarment on, like an underpant or something like that. But I'm fine with, like, if you had, like, a robe that was, like, what's the stuff? Like, the clear, not clear, but, like, the sheer...
Oh, like chiffon?
Like
or,
chiffon
yeah.
or, like, is it neoprene? No, neoprene's plastic,
No, yeah,
like plasticky.
yeah.
But you know what I mean, like a sheer,
Yes.
gauzy,
Yes.
light fabric that might be completely see-through or partially see-through. Oddly, I'm okay with that because the whole point of skyclad is to open yourself up to the sky, to absorb celestial energies. And I think you can do that if you're wearing a see-through fabric.
Yes.
I think you can do that if you're wearing opaque fabric.
And it's about what makes you feel good.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things we did as a robe coven was we shifted with the seasons. We had white robes and black robes, and we wore white robes during the light half of the year and black robes during the dark half of the year. That was also very practical because this time of year, when it's very, very hot, no one wants to be wearing a heavy black robe with a hood.
Just light, gauzy white robes. Totally fine.
Yeah, some linen white robes. That's what you want. Yeah. I think that's everything I have to say about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the use of blood in magic in AFW. We actually had a whole class that I would teach about using blood in magic. And a lot of it was surrounding safety, physical safety with using blood. I recommended that people ground by lancets.
I have a diabetic pen that I like to use.
That you go through the side of your finger, because things like cutting open your palm or even using your fingertip are just dumb. Why would you use your fingertip? That's the most sensitive part of your finger.
A lot of TV shows like to show these people doing rituals where they slice their hand up. Please.
Don't do that.
Please, people.
There's tendons in there.
Also, this part of your body, the palm of your hand, is one of those spots that will take an immense amount of time to heal. Because we use our hands constantly. If you wound your hand like that, it will take forever to heal. Also, when it comes to blood magic, you don't need much. Like a couple drops is fine. I actually have a recipe for fake blood that you can do if you are not comfortable with bleeding yourself. Now mine, I do bleed a little bit. I put a few drops of myself in there just to make it mine. But if you take pomegranate juice and iron powder, which you can actually get iron supplements like for taking, crush those up into powder, mix that into some pomegranate juice, and if you want to put your own blood in it, put a couple drops of your own blood in there, boom, you have blood to use for rituals until you run out of it and you need to make it again. If that's what you want to make. If you're fine with using your own blood, do it safely. Use sterile things, use lancets. If you're going to use blades, please make sure the blades are safe. That they're sterilized. If you're using razor blades, use a clean one every time. Like if you use one, throw it away. Razors are not expensive. You can get packs of hundreds of them for very cheaply.
Yes.
But please know where your arteries are. Don't do anything on your hands, your wrist. If you have to cut, we're getting into some of my vampire tea here. If you have to cut, focus on places like the tops of your arms and the tops of your legs. Not necessarily the easiest place to collect from, but these are good places to collect from. Avoid places like this part of your arm because you have a lot of veins in here that can...
Close to the surface.
Close to the surface that can cause a lot of damage if you bleed too much from them. In terms of blood magic, obviously, since we have all this information, we're totally fine with that.
With what you're working with. And sometimes to have a permanent connection with what you're working with. A blood link is a very strong link. Some people refer to it as the unbreakable link. Part of our tradition, we had an oath stone. It was an anvil. Part of the initiation was you were expected to bleed on the anvil. Take your oaths on the anvil, bleed on the anvil, and become one with the tradition. You didn't take oaths to the coven, you didn't take oaths to me, you took oaths to yourself and to the tradition itself. And you took them in blood. Because blood lasts, blood lingers.
Also the whole concept of the witch blood.
Oh yes.
As witches, we possess the witch blood.
Witch blood is a couple of different things, distinctly different things. First, witch blood is the blood that flows inside of every witch. Be they self-initiated, initiated by someone else, or born into a family of witches. Witch blood. It's in you.
Not sponsored.
Secondly, witch blood is this idea that somehow all witches go back to a source, the witch father or the witch mother. And from that source, we gain our power. So it's flowing in you, and it is the source of your magical power. Do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, that's pretty much all I would have said too.
Okay, ooh, I like that.
That could be a whole video on its
What
own.
is witch fire? Witch fire is the etheric substance that we use to project magic and interact with magic.
Mm-hmm. It has a lot of different names in different groups. You'll find that certain left-hand path practitioners or spiritual Satanists refer to theirs as the black flame. Within traditional witchcraft and in certain witchcraft spaces that might not necessarily be traditional, we refer to it as the witch fire. It is the spark of creation that allows us to manifest magic.
It is part of the red soul, which I'll get back to the different parts of the soul in a little bit. Witch fire, as we practiced it in Crossroads Coven, was brought up and down by the Starforge meditation. The Starforge meditation was sending your breath down, down, down into the earth, and drawing power up from the center of the earth into your personal cauldron. Your personal cauldron can be located in several different places around the meridians of your body. Mine's kind of down here.
Mine's my solar plexus.
Yeah, that's about where mine is.
Yeah.
Then you bring your breath up, 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 up to your personal star, because every man and woman is a star, right? You find your personal star. You draw that star fire down into your personal cauldron. And you let those two fires, the fire of the earth and the fire of the stars, the fire of the forge and the iron star fire, mingle within you. And you grow that energy as often as you need to, so that you are an endless font of potential power. That way you're not depleting yourself when you're doing magic. You are connected to sources bigger and greater than you can even comprehend. Do you have anything you want to add to Witchfire?
I mean, that really kind of sums it all up. It is that fire that when you reach into inside yourself for, like you said, for doing magic, we reach inside ourselves, that energy that we feel, that tingle that's inside of us when we are, that heat that we project when we are doing magic. It comes from that witch fire. And, you know, everybody's witch fire is different. Not everybody has a big witch fire.
Right.
And just because you have a big witch fire doesn't mean that you're some all-powerful supreme witch, because that's not a thing.
Nope, doesn't make you special.
But everyone who is a witch has witch fire.
3 souls of traditional witchcraft is a concept that Lorelai and I developed together. I was very interested in the idea of the shamanic soul structure, and I brought that into traditional witchcraft. The 3 souls are the white, the black, and the red. As with so many things in witchcraft, it comes down to those 3 things: the white, the black, and the red. The white soul is the higher self, the holy guardian angel in the Lema. It is the inspired part of us that lives on and goes to a higher realm after we depart from this plane. The black soul is the animal soul. It is something that can be projected into a fetch, which is an etheric construct that you would build in the form of an animal or an imp or something that you can send out into the world that you put a little bit of your black soul into. You can send it out to go do work in the world. And the red soul is the soul of the land and the animating spark within you. It is the life force that's within you just because you're alive. And after you die, it becomes part of the land once more. The black soul, after you die, goes back to the eternal cauldron, becomes part of the big primordial soup. It's the part that gets reincarnated.
Mm-hmm.
And this idea comes from a lot of indigenous traditions that the Sami, the Mongolian shamanism, Native American spiritualities sometimes have three souls. So, and it's alluded to in European folklore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anything you want to say about the purple soul?
That's the three souls.
Okay.
Advice that I would give to witches who are seeking to become involved in American traditional witchcraft or American folkloric witchcraft is do your research. And that doesn't mean go out and buy a bunch of random books on witchcraft and study those. What I mean is do your research on the land around you. Do your research on the flora and the fauna. Do your research on the folklore around you. Do your research on the minerals that exist in your area. Learn about the people who lived there before you. Learn about any stories about the area. Learn about any cryptids that might be associated with the area. Knowledge is power. And you can't work with the land if you don't understand the land.
Yeah. But don't shy away from the books either. Some of our favorite authors: Jim McGarry, Nigel Jackson, Paul Hewson, absolutely.
Peter Hamilton Giles.
Mm-hmm. Loving.
Keldon.
Yeah, Keldon. And who wrote Besom, Stang, and Sword? Love that. Lee Morgan. Love them.
If you'd like to learn more about spirits and witch flight, you should check out Ambrosia's Book of Witch Flight by Jasmyne Ambrosia, available on Amazon.
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Blessed be. We'll see you in hell. Bye.
The howling whispers tear at the scars, leaving a broken and vandalized jar. The soul ignited and burns as a flame, turns all to ash with its village to blame. Crooked finger bent with intent, sending confusion and chaos where meant. Evils arise